There's definitely no question about the fact that the work we are all doing in human resources is changing, especially when you start hearing things about chatbots and AI and machine learning. Just a few years ago, some folks would come to corporate heads of human resources and our eyes would roll over because we didn't really understand what all that meant. But clearly, it has hit not only the mainstream of human resources, but it has reached the C-suite of many large organizations. So it's wonderful to see the new generation. I won't say that I'm the old generation, but certainly see the new generation of folks embracing this topic. But I will also say that it is not only changing the work that we are doing, but more importantly, it is changing the culture of organizations. There's been survey after survey being done. In fact, there was a recent survey done by Deloitte specifically around the future of work, and the number one element that was raised was in fact culture, as far as elements that we needed to be concerned about as all these applications continue to grow in prominence and continue to grow in importance and continue to be embedded into human resources functions. And each of you will become experts in many of these elements over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, but I don't want to miss the fact, and I don't want to minimize the importance of how culture will continue to be paramount in ensuring the success of this. And I'll echo some of the things that they said, some of the prior speakers said about ensuring that you're talking about culture when building AI. The one thing that I will tell you is that I brought in quite a bit of research, but I don't think I need to. I will say, again, this Deloitte survey, 69% of senior executives believe that culture will be one of the most critical elements. PwC did a survey of CEOs, and again, they raised the fact that the elements around culture will continue to be one of the most critical elements in the future workforce. And other surveys, University of South Carolina, the Darla-Moore School of Business did a similar survey where they surveyed CEOs specifically around what are the most critical elements in the future. And they cited two elements: talent, many of you I'm sure will agree, and the second one was culture. And culture, a couple years before, had not been in the top echelon of many of these surveys. So continue to read survey data, continue to understand what's going on out there, because it is setting you up for success to ensure that you're able to bring this content to corporate America and to specifically your work environments. Now, one of the elements that I always forget to talk about, but you can't help talk about in the past couple of months, is around current events. If you haven't seen the recent walkout by 20,000 plus Google employees, or conversely, many of the other highly publicized Me Too, Time's Up efforts, I want to make sure that you understand that a lot of that was really highlighted through the advent of many technology efforts within corporate America. How can you organize a walkout globally of 20,000+ employees in just a matter of days unless there was truly a network that was ensured through technology within these systems? And there's quite a bit of information being shared that is critically important for you to be made aware of, because there, as human resources professionals specifically, you want to know what's going on. But let's talk a little bit about what are some of the elements that are going to be very important as you establish these types of platforms in your organization. It goes without saying that transparency is clearly going to be one of the top ones, and I'm going to encourage you to keep an eye out on this effort. What do I mean by that? First of all, and I'll be one of those that confesses, years ago, old school HR folks, we used to roam the hallways of corporate America. We used to conduct these confidential investigations. We had lawyers and made them attorney-client privilege. I'm sure none of you know any about that stuff. But the reality is that that sense of secrecy and confidentiality was nothing more than just a false sense of security. Because today's day and age, information is being shared across organizations and platforms that are not even just as prominent as Glassdoor or LinkedIn. There are many more platforms that are being developed by young entrepreneurs that are talking about pay, for example, and gender equality. Pay equity is becoming a significantly important topic, not just around gender. I had a conversation with my 13-year-old daughter yesterday, and she asked me about that. And she says, Daddy, I just read a topic that women of color get paid 61 cents to the dollar of a white male. She's telling an HR guy this. So, of course, we had a 45-minute discussion around that. And I will tell you that transparency continues to become an element that is critical. Gossip will fill the vacuum. If corporations and senior executives do not have the courage to talk about this, it is inevitable that someone will be talking about it. In many instances, they'll be making things up. The one thing I will also tell you around transparency is give employees a voice. There's a company right up the road, maybe, Paul, near your neck of the woods. I think it's called Squaremouth. They're a travel insurance comparison agency. It's a website. And what they're doing is, and they've been doing it, by the way, since the founding in 2003, they have peer reviews, and they vote on peer reviews for pay raises. And by the way, pay raises are posted up on the wall. Talk about radical transparency when your peers are voting as to whether or not you get a pay increase. Talk about giving employees a voice. The CEO was recently quoted by CNN, and his response was, "Everyone knows everything." Right? And then finally, align your message internally and externally. Don't send a message out there, and I've done this. I'll be the first one to admit that I've sent messages out to the market through recruitment, advertising, and other efforts, and then employees inside the house tell you, that's not really us. Ensure that the messages you deliver externally are the same as you are communicating internally. That's true transparency. The next element I want to talk about is accountability. Technology is requiring corporations to be far more accountable. Set the tone at the top and reward for the specific behaviors. If you're not rewarding for behaviors that are truly documented, if it's fuzzy and it's based on social networks, it's going to come back to bite you. Importantly, authenticity, especially living your values, and more importantly, creating a genuine employment brand. What you tell people externally and what you tell people internally are going to be critical elements as you continue your efforts. And since I only have a couple of seconds, which I literally, I want to make sure that I tell you that the talent that you bring to the organization has to be aligned to your vision and values. If you fail to do this, you're going to bring in individuals that may not believe in the foundation belief system that you are trying to build within your organization. It is critically important that you consider this, not just roles and responsibilities, especially as my predecessor spoke here, when you're building chatbots, AI, and other technology that are measuring skills, experience, and other factors, you have to bring in the culture component. Do not forget what the two former presenters said. Culture is critically important even when you build these platforms. So since I ran out of time maybe 30 seconds ago, thank you so much.